Now friends, after this wonderful beginning, let's move towards our guest lecture by Honorable Dr. Sanjeev Kumar Singh on the interesting topic of ligands and structure-based methods in computer-aided drug design.
Hello.
Area, they are a bit more expertise in this area. So title of my talk is ligand-based and drug design method in pharmaceutical development. So before starting with the ligand-based, I will just like to tell you the basics about what actually the pharmaceutical industry is doing and what actually they are looking for and how the bioinformatics are able to help in drug discovery process. You want me to stay in one place or I can move? I'll be fine. So I use the term here, the ligand base. The ligand base I used because the overall drug discovery process we have divided into two parts. One is the structure based drug design and one is the ligand based drug design. Okay, what is actually structure? In terms of bioinformatics, whenever the enzyme is known, protein is known, we are calling it structure based, and when the protein of particular diseases are not known, we are calling it a ligand based drug design. But are you able to hear? No. So, but Dr. Prasad has told me to stay here only. Protein is known, we are calling it a structure based drug design, and when the protein is not known, we are calling it a ligand based drug design. Whenever we talk about the bioinformatics and drug discovery, we are working at the intersection. Means lots of areas like structural biology, biochemistry, medicinal chemistry, toxicology, pharmacology, biophysical chemistry, information technology, and apart from these main areas, some more areas are also involved in them, like physics, chemistry, and computer science. Okay, so first talk about the structural biology. Next slide, please. This is the fastest growing area of biology in which we understand the protein and nucleotide the structure and its function and how protein controls the living process. Even from the beginning, from your whenever we entered in class 12 or in BSc, we know this common statement that each and every protein is responsible for one function. Okay, but at that time it was just for study only. But when we are working on this area, we know that how the particular protein is responsible for a particular disease. Okay, next. This is the other area of medicinal chemistry. Actually, in earlier days, only the medicinal chemist can working on the drug design and discovery. Okay, and molecular modeling and CAD is a minute part of a medicinal chemistry. I'm audible to everybody? So as you see, this is the three-dimensional structure of doxorubicin, that is anti-cancer compound. And why I am showing it here, just to tell you how the three-dimensional structure is visible on the screen. Okay. And if I talk about the earlier days, like 50 or 60 years back, first the medicinal chemists or organic chemists are able to synthesize the molecule inside the lab, and they are applying the molecular pharmacology, and they are going for a wet lab testing for a particular molecule, and sometimes they found that particular compound is not very good. Okay, so whatever the efforts they have given for synthesis, that all the efforts are waste. So what actually nowadays we are doing, first through the virtual screening and combinatorial library design, we are checking computationally all sorts of compounds, like what is the absorption, distribution, or atomic properties in computers, and then we are going to the biological activity. Fine. Next slide. Now this is a basic concept on what basis the pharmaceutical and agrochemical industry is working, like identification of a novel compounds which is useful and having the commercially valuable biological properties. And on the other hand side, the drug discovery process is a very complex process, as This is a combination of multidisciplinary, like all the areas, like as Professor Wankere told, like physics, chemistry, and there are lots of areas of biology are also involved here. That's why it is a multidisciplinary. And many series over a period of time. This I will explain in later slides. And the one more important thing about drug discovery is that this is most novel compounds do not result in a drug. Okay, lots of times you may have heard that some compounds are removed from the market because of the side effects. Maybe after 20 years, 15 years, or 25 years, like Victrin 500, and some like aspirin and disprin. These all drugs are banned in US. Why? Because of side effects. Okay, and then you may cause the unprotected long-term side effects. Why CAD? Why we are using computer-aided drug designing in pharmaceutical development? Okay, if you talk about in journal that how many compounds till now, because people are talking about the CAD and how many compounds we have discovered yet through computers. So my answer is one or no. Because our discovery process is not only depend upon the CAD, but this is a kind of a helping hand in the discovery process. Means in a day, in a month, we can check n number of compounds, n number of data. And one more problem is that nowadays, because of the increased cost and enormous amount of time taken to discover a new drug, and also because of the rigorous competition among different pharmaceutical industry. Why I am using the term the rigorous competition here? Because if you talk about the major pharmaceutical companies like Ranbaxy, Cadila, and Jubilant, so they all are working on anti-cancer, anti-HIV, anti-inflammatory, and anti-pyretic or anti-diabetic. But if we can, like one industry can work on 2 or 3 areas, and second industry can work on 2 or 3 areas, their data can be analyzed properly, and the money and the cost which they are giving for the research, that can be minimized. Next. So this is the next. This is the overall representation of how the drug discovery process and development is happening. It starts with the identification of disease, then isolation of the protein that involves 2 to 5 years. And as I told, for each and every drug discovery process, the first basic is to identify the protein responsible for the particular disease. So here, the isolation of the protein involved in disease takes 2 to 5 years. Sometimes protein is not crystallized or not available in database, so we have to model the protein based on the sequence available. That is the other kind of technique. Then we are going for the find a drug effective against a disease protein, that again 2 to 5 years it is taking. Then we are going for the preclinical testing based on the raw data, that again takes 1 to 3 years. Then this preclinical testing is on rats. Then it's coming on the scaling up, like how much quantity is required for particular compound or a molecule or an inhibitor. Normally when you go to the medical store, you ask the thing, like I want this particular drug, like 500 mg, 100 mg, or 200 mg, like this. So like how much quantity is required for the inhibition, that all this kind of things we are doing in the scaling up process. Then we are going for the formulation, as lots of drugs are available in the form of capsules, tablets, injection, and in injection also like intravenous, muscular, like this. So these all things we are doing in the formulation process. Sometimes what are happening, the chemists have designed some compounds, but that is not, they are not able to make in the form of tablets. So what we are doing, whatever tablets we are getting, that is with the some vitamins, mixed with the vitamins, that vitamin cannot change the activity of the molecule, and that can work as an inhibitor or drug. So that kind of things we are doing in the formulation. Then we are filing a compound for the IND approval, that is the identification of a new drug. Okay, after filing from IND, we are going for the human clinical trials, that again take 2 to 10 years. And in this human clinical trials, it's like 4 stages, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and phase 4 clinical trials. And then we are filing a compound for the NDA approval. NDA is New Drug Administration. And after getting approval from NDA, we are filing for the FDA approval. Maybe everybody is aware about this. And this again takes 2 to 3 years. So overall, if we assume that it takes around 15 years to come one particular compound to the market. Okay. And even then, this is not enough time to check all the toxicological parameters of a particular compound. So it is the other way of representation that sometimes we start with 10,000 compounds and finally we are getting one drug or sometimes no drug. Okay, and the main methods involved is that development of assay with the protein, then lead identification, lead optimization. Lead is the term which we are using for the drug compound. When we start our study, we are calling it a compound. Then compound is having some kind of inhibitory activity, we are calling it an inhibitor. Then it is having some drug-like properties, we are calling it leads. And some more screening, we are calling that compound as a hits. And finally, when we screen the compound in all the levels, we are calling it a drug. Okay, so that there are different levels of calling compounds. So on average, it takes around 12 to 15 years and the cost around 500 to 800 million US dollar to bring a drug to the market. Okay, and even as I told, this particular time is also not enough. Now the US has increased the clinical trial period minimum 20 years for each and every compound. Right? This is the another way of representation, like how much money we are investing in the discovery and the clinical trial process. Like in discovery, which starts with the target identification and validation. Target is nothing but protein. And the lead identification, like drug identification, lead optimization, and preclinical development, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4 clinical trials. Discovery process takes $35 million US dollars, and the clinical trial itself takes 467 approximate million US dollars. Okay. So here, like where we can do the where we can apply technology in this area of drug discovery process. Okay. So as I told, our first step is to identify the protein. If protein is available, our work will be simple. If protein is not available, we have to do some more things like protein modeling, then their validation, then dynamics to check the stability of a protein. There are so many things are there. Okay. If protein is available, then we have to isolate the protein through isolation and purification. Then we have to apply the genomics, proteomics and biopharmaceutical that potentially producing many more targets and personalized targets. Okay. Then we are going for the high throughput screening. In this high throughput screening, we are screening around 1 lakh compounds a day for activity against a target protein. Suppose if we know that these particular compounds are having the inhibitory activity or drug-like properties, so through computers and high throughput screening, we can screen around 1 lakh compounds. It is not at all possible through the wet lab and experiments. Okay, and at least, like suppose initially, if you are not using high throughput screening, you have to like check the activity for 1 lakh compounds. But if you screen computationally, at least your job will be easy because you have screened 1,000 compounds, and for that only you have to go for the wet lab. Then again, for the virtual screening, again we are applying some more computational techniques to screen some more compounds. Then combinatorial chemistry. Suppose you got some a good compounds which is having all the inhibitory activity, then you can go for the combinatorial chemistry, which rapidly producing a vast number of compounds like different conformations, like in which particular conformation a compound is active. Okay, like suppose this is compound A. And if you rotate the diagonal angles of these compounds, there will be second compounds. Like some more rotations are there, there will be third compound. It's like different area of chemistry, that is a combinatorial chemistry, in which we can check all the conformations of a single compounds, and we can find out which particular conformation is active. Next one is the molecular modeling. That is my main area. We use the computer graphics and models to helps to improve activity. Okay, what sorts of modification we can do in the existing compounds so that we can enhance the activity. Okay, suppose I can give the example of HIV RT inhibitors. There is a HIV and RT inhibitor. There is a clinically known compound, that is the AZT, azithromycin. In azithromycin, there is a at 3' position there is a 1 and 3 is there, which is only controlling the activity. So if we know about which particular compounds or functional group is controlling the activity, we can do n number of changes and n number of modifications in the existing compounds to come up with a very personalized compound or very accurate and potent compounds. Okay, so this kind of modification we are doing in the molecular modeling. And then we are going for the in vitro and in silico ADV models, tissue and computer models to begins to replace the animal testing, as we are giving too much time for the animal testing in the preclinical trials. So nowadays we have a software, we have a modules in software, so that we can replace the animal testing like toxicological testing. We have all the information what actually, suppose like I can give an example of TopCat, that is a toxicity prediction. What we are doing in this software, they have all the data. Suppose if we are developing some eye drop, so they have all the data of the rabbit eye. If the value is coming in the range of 10 to 20, it will not create the irritation in the rabbit eye. If the value is coming from like 20 to 30, it is slight irritation is there in the rabbit eye. If it is less than 10, it also not be good. So this kind of more informations are available in the software. So by this way we can screen some more compounds in a short period. Next slide, please. So maybe I am not very fast, is it? Okay, next. This is the automating the CAD process. How the CAD process is, we are using our technique. Next, please. We start with the gene sequence data and apply the homology modeling if the protein is not available, and normally we are getting through the X-ray crystallography, we are getting the proteins. Whatever you have heard about the PDB, in the PDB all the data is available from X-ray crystallography or from homology. If the homology modeled based on more than 90% similarity and they have performed the MDS also, like molecular dynamic simulation, and if the model is accurate, they are submitting in the PDB. Suppose the PDB is available, that is the one hand side, and the second hand side is the ligand binding data, that is the small molecules that in future these compounds will be drugged. We are developing a pharmacophore model. Pharmacophore is nothing but a common and a basic active part which is available in all the compounds, or can able to control the activity and potency, that we are calling it a pharmacophore. Okay, after pharmacophore prediction, this pharmacophore again I will explain in detail in the later slides. After developing the pharmacophore, we are designing the templates which is having, these compounds are having the pharmacophoric properties. After designing templates, we are going for the designing libraries. After designing, we are going for the synthesis and then screening. And if we found that screening is not up to the mark, these compounds are not very good, again we have to do the modification in the libraries until unless we will not get the useful compound. Okay, so this is a wet lab kind of a study. Here we have the theoretical study, here also we have the theoretical study, and just to minimize our efforts for development process. This is all about the techniques, overall techniques which we are using in a CAD process, computer designing. This is a target discovery and link discovery, database filtering, alignment, QSAR, similarity analysis, bioforce, ADMET properties, virtual high throughput screening, diversity selection, combinatorial languages, and de novo design. So these are the major modules, the major techniques which we are applying in a drug discovery process to screen the compounds. These all we are, when we are talking about the CAD, it consists of your application which we are applying on the small molecules only. Okay, so this is all the techniques which we are applying on the ligands, and de novo design and the molecular docking which we are applying on the protein, along with the protein. Okay, so like database filtering, we have a large number of data like 2 lakh or 3 lakh compounds. Maybe the National Cancer Institute is having more than 5 lakh compounds. Cambridge Crystallographic Database is having around 6 lakh compound, and like PubChem database which is freely available. So lakhs of compounds are there. So your job is to how to filter the database, how to download and screen the compounds of your interest. So that also we are doing it here. Then there is a like old kind of study of alignment. Suppose if any known compounds or known drug compound is having a particular kind of alignment, so if we download the new compound, that should also have the same kind of alignment, that may be a drug. QSAR again I will explain in later slides. Similarity analysis, bioforce. Bioforce is nothing but the pharmacophore, like basic common part available in a drug molecules. ADME properties, which is very essential to screen the compounds like absorption, distribution, metabolism, elimination, and toxicity. Versatile high throughput screening, diversity selection, combinatorial libraries like developing the library of small molecules, and the most important one is the de novo design. What actually we are doing in de novo design? Maybe everybody has heard about the molecular docking, is it? What we are doing in molecular docking? We have a protein on one side, we have a ligand on one side, we have just incorporate our ligand into the protein, and wherever it is giving the interaction, we will just see that interaction, whether any hydrogen bond, hydrophobic interaction or whatever interactions are there, and we should report that. What we are doing in de novo design, we are designing the small molecule within the cavity of the active site. You need not to export any foreign molecules from a database to check the interaction. Based on the property of this protein's active site, you have to draw and design the compound small molecule here itself, so that in compared to the molecular docking, this kind of study are very effective. Okay, maybe first you can drop one small fragment and it shows some interaction. If not, you can change the fragment and import some other fragment or functional group. And like this, you can add the fragments and until unless we are not getting a useful compound. Next, please. Yeah, as I told in the beginning, like structure-based drug design, that is a kind of a direct design, and the other hand side we have a ligand-based drug design, that is an indirect design. When the structure of target, the structure of protein is known, we are going for the structure-based drug design. As I told, molecular docking and the de novo design is a part of a structure-based drug design. And for so many diseases, like protein is not known, and we are only using the small molecules for the development, that is the ligand-based drug design. And the pharmacophore mapping and QSCR is a major example in this area. What is pharmacophore? Earlier you used to use this term like biophore. The functional group and the common functional group. Okay. Is okay? Most common and active part of a compound which controls the activity of a molecule. Okay. Suppose you see in this molecule, here is one benzene ring, here is one other benzene ring, here is some functional groups are here, this is the other benzene ring, this is the other benzene ring. So I can say this whole molecule is not controlling the activity, but some particular functional group, like you see here, there are some kind of acetylene regions are there, these are the hydrophobic regions are there in a green ball you are seeing here. So these are controlling the activity, these are only controlling the activity of the compounds. Not all the compounds is having activity. So whenever we extract the common part in our set of compounds, that we are calling it a pharmacophore. This Professor Paul Ehrlich has given one definition in 1990, a molecular framework that carries force the essential features responsible for a drug's biological activity. That is one definition. And second one is given by the Dr. Peter in 1977, a set of sexual features in a molecule that is recognized at a receptor site and is responsible for the molecule's activity. So that is actually the pharmacophore. What features we are looking for in pharmacophore? These are the hydrogen bond donor, hydrogen bond receptor, positive and negative charge groups, and hydrophobic regions. And functional groups are molecules with similar physical and chemical properties. And these are the bioisoester, which is applicable to the biological molecules, not a drug-like compounds. Next. Yeah, so this is the easiest way to understand a set of points in a space to define the binding of ligands with target. You see the 4 points here. Okay, this is 1, 2, 3, 4 points. This is the 4-point pharmacophore. This is the 3-point pharmacophore. Means these points are the different functional groups. You see 1, 2, 3 functional groups. Next slide. This is an example of a ACE inhibitor, the angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitors. This is a structure of captopril, and this is a structure of enalapril. And why I am showing these compounds here? Because this is the only drug which we have first designed and then developed. This is the only drug, if somebody will ask you, if any compounds in the last 50 years we have developed through computers, so you can say that yes, captopril is one example which we have first designed and then we have developed in lab. So as I am giving example here, because the enalapril is experimentally proved, and this is the first computationally proved, and you see the pharmacophoric features. Next slide. This is the pharmacophoric features of both the AC inhibitors. Both the drugs of pharmacophore is common. This is like first distance, this is second distance, this is third distance, this is fourth distance, and this is fifth distance. So what we are checking, the particular arrangement between the functional group in a compound is a pharmacophore. Like suppose in captopril, if zinc and oxygen distance is around 6 to 7 angstrom. Okay. In enalapril also it should be in the same range. Like whenever we will develop another AC inhibitors, that should follow this kind of pharmacophore. If they are having some other functional groups here, but this particular pharmacophore should be common in all the AC inhibitors. Okay. Whenever we are checking some new compounds, we should follow this pharmacophore. Next page. This is the other color representation, like this is in green ball, this is the acceptor region, and this is the nuclear charge region, and this is the hydrophobic region, and this is the donor region. This particular region is donating a hydrogen to the protein that we are calling a donor region, and acceptor is taking on a hydrogen from the protein, that is the acceptor region. So this is for captopril, this is for enalapril. Next please. One example I will give you for the pharmacophoric analysis and the molecular docking studies on antifungal azoles as a CIP inhibitors. This work is published in Journal of Medicinal Chemistry. Next please. Next. Without going into detail about this particular disease, I will just tell how we are developing the pharmacophore. Next please. Next. Yeah. Here we have used one software called Phase Module of Schrodinger, and we have developed the hydrogen donor, acceptor, hydrophobic, aromatic, and positive and negative region for all CYP50 inhibitors. And what compounds we have taken for this study is all azoles, antifungal azoles, like itraconazole, fluconazole, and so on. And finally, we have developed two pharmacophore, that is the pharmacophore 1 and pharmacophore 2, and these are showing like acceptor, hydrophobic, and aromatic. Okay, next slide. First we have developed for the taken known compounds also, which is a known through fungal azoles, and the unknown compounds which we have taken from databases, and we have predicted the pharmacophore, and finally we extract the common pharmacophore. Means whether the common pharmacophore is applicable to the known compounds as well as unknown compounds or not. Right, next please. This is the pharmacophore, like you see, this is the acceptor region. This particular functional group is contributing as the acceptor region. This is the aromatic ring, this is our second aromatic ring, this is the hydrophobic, these three hydrophobic regions. What we are checking here, whether all the compounds, whatever we have taken, next please, all the compounds we have taken in the study are having same kind of pharmacophore or not. So all are having the three hydrophobic regions, and two aromatic regions and one acceptor regions, and their particular distances of these functional groups are also almost in a same range. So we are telling it, suppose in one compound it is a 5 to 6 angstrom, in second it will be 6 to 7 angstrom. So in a discovery process we can say this is a quite okay. And one more thing which we are getting here is the survival score. What is the survival score of your pharmacophore? This is a kind of some technical terms which when you use the software only you can able to understand. But thing is that we are extracting the particular functional group, functional regions to extract the common features for a set of compounds. Next one. These are particular distances among different, like this is a acceptor and hydrophobic, this is the distance. Hydrophobic and the hydrophobic, second hydrophobic, this is the distance. And this should be common in all set of compounds you have taken. Next please. This is the survival score for both the pharmacophore. This is 2.1 and this is 2.117 and 136. This is quite similar. So both the pharmacophores, anyone you can choose. Next. Yeah, this is the pharmacophore for the hypothesis 1. with a survival score of 2.117. As you see here also the 3 hydrophobics are there, 2 aromatics are there and 1 asparagines are there. So same here is applicable to the QSR also. Each and every compound is having some activity, some information about the activity and properties. So that's what we are studying in the QSR. These are the main modules for the QSR, that is COMFA, COMSIA, Comparative Molecular Field Analysis. When different softwares we are using, the modules are also different. Next slide. These are the basic steps for the QSR, like taking a compound and then screen the develop a QSR model. And I can say that this is the only module which normally the pharmaceutical industry is preferring. Why? Because this is very, very close to the real study. The basic step is that we are predicting the compound's theoretical activity, and we are choosing those compounds only for the QSR for which the molecular activity is already known. Okay, suppose a set of compounds, next slide. Yeah, suppose for a set of compounds for which the molecular activity is known, and we can able to predict the QSR for the particular series, and we can tell that suppose the theoretical activity is we are predicting is 1.2 and the experimental study is 1.3. We can say that, like, okay, the experimental and theoretical are very, very close, so whatever the model we have developed is a good QSR model. Okay, our approach is right. While now the second thing is that what kind of properties you are choosing. Suppose if you want to screen a student, a best student from the class, you first should decide the properties. The person should be very good in mathematics, science, English, Hindi, and so many other areas. So then we can say that, okay, this particular student is very good in the class. The same here with the compound. The compound should having a low molecular weight, compound is having a good inhibitory activity, compound should be low toxic. If compound suits with all these properties, we can say that compound is very good. We can continue with these compounds. Okay. So this is applicable, not only applicable to the one compounds, but suppose if you have taken 100 compounds for your study, and if all the compounds are suitable for your model, then only you can say that your model is good. Okay. Suppose I am giving the example in the class. Suppose one student is particular is good in some other subject, second one is good in some other subject. But when you extract the overall percentage of the class, maybe you will get a bad kind of model, because one is good in English, one is good in mathematics. So for a journal model, like journal parameters, you will lack some parameters. I can come to this group. Maybe mostly the 90% will come in that group. But if you fix the parameter, the person who is having only 7 feet height can only come to this group. Maybe you will get only 1 or sometimes no. So whenever you want to relax the parameter in QSR, you have to relax some properties. Like you have to decide some ranges. Like if the molecular weight you need from 400 kilodalton to 800 kilodalton, then so many compounds will come in that series. Fine. This is the kind of a PLS analysis we are doing for the QSR. This is the one value, that is the R square value which we are getting for a particular QSR model. That R square value should close to 0.9, and the R square cross validated should also be close to 0.9. But why the R square cross validated is coming 0.69? Because we have taken around 71 compounds. So this is the value for 71 compounds. First we are developing our model for 56, like this is R square, and this cross validated for 15 compounds. Okay, we are dividing into two parts. Suppose we have taken 71 compounds and we divide into 1:4 ratio, and we developed one model and we got some values. Like what are the properties which is applicable to tested compounds, and then apply the same model on the tested compounds. So why we are doing the QSR? The question arises, why we are doing the QSR? So if you are able to develop a proper model for one series of compounds, for any unknown series, you can apply the same model in future. So that you need not to worry about what are the properties required for the inhibition. Suppose if you are developing anti-HIV compounds, first if you can develop a model here for known compounds, in future you can screen any unknown compounds, whatever you are developing. Whether your molecule is suitable for that model or not. If not, you can screen out. If it is yes, you can screen in. Fine. So these are different properties we are also developing in QSAR, like steric properties, electrostatic, hydrophobic, donor receptor. This QSAR, developing QSAR model is a bit complicated because the screening parameters are so many. Because I have developed, I am doing the work on this area, so maybe for me it is a bit simple, but those who are only like listening or understanding the first time, for them it is quite difficult. But if you like attempt, if you go through in your lab and do the QSAR, it's very, very interesting because we are very, very close to the real study. Okay, we are developing the theoretical activity for each and every compound. Okay, so these are the steric values. This also in some range so that we can predict the properties. You see this. These are the actual PIC50 value, and this is the predicted PIC50 value. Okay, and you see that how close the value is. This is from one of my research work. So, suppose these are the compounds. For a compound 1, this predictor one is 5, and the actual one is also very, very close to 5. Okay, so this kind of value we got, and this is for the actual PIC for the COMSIA model, second model. Next, please. This is the residuals, means the difference between the actual and theoretical. Okay, maximum difference which I got is 1.5, and the minimum you can see here like 0.02 or 0.01, something like that. So you see, when your theoretical model is giving this much close value, so you should rely on that compound. Okay, and if you see the maximum difference, it is 1.5. Next, please. On the other hand side, this is not only giving you the value in a numerical form, but also giving you the value in the form of a different contours. Next, please. Next. Yeah. This is the, like suppose after developing one model, if you are getting a green contours nearby your molecules, it means that this is a aesthetically favorable compounds. Means if you add more steric groups in this particular region, you will get more active compounds. Okay, and like this is a electronegative favorable region. If you add some negative functional group here in this particular region, that will also increase the activity of the compound. So if this contour information also we are getting in the 3D QSAR to come up with very close to the real study. Okay, by this way we can generate some more compounds with according to this output, and we are again going for the QSAR and getting the very best compounds. Next, please. This is the one work on the amino-thiazole derivatives of cyclin-dependent kinase inhibitors, and this is a like kind of alignment for the QSAR. Next, please. And this is like contour maps from the QSAR. This work is published in the QSAR and Computational Science. Next, please. This is the other QSAR work on the Indian series of CDK2 inhibitors. That is also in European Journal of Medicinal Chemistry. This is the third work on this series of oxidose derivatives of cyclin-dependent kinase 1 inhibitors. That is also in the medicinal chemistry. So like this, why? Because whatever data which we are getting, that is very, very, very close to the real work. Like the experimentalist has done something in their lab and they got some values, and we also developed the model in our lab, and we also getting very very close to the real value. So that's why they can believe on the model which we are developing here in this QSAR. Next, please. This is the structure-based drug design. As like Pharmacophore and the QSAR, I explained about the ligand-based drug design, and here is the some basic information about the structure-based drug design, like determining the protein structure, then identify the interaction sites, like between the active sites, where the ligand is going to bound, or small molecule is going to bound, and de novo design, as I explained, we are designing the compounds within the active site, and we are also screening the database of the small molecules, then evaluating the structures, whether the structure, the small molecule is fitting very good in the cavity of a protein or not. Then we are going for the synthesis, then we are going for a test candidate, then finally we are calling it a lead compounds, like the compound which is having a drug-like properties. So in the structure, if the protein is available, we are doing all this kind of studies. Next. This is the like graphical representation how the ligand is binding with the protein. Okay. Next, please. These are different docking softwares like TruxX, Autodoc, Glide, and Doc, based on different scoring functions and methods. Okay. And this is de novo design, version modeling, and automation of structure. These are the modules and softwares for doing the de novo designing. Next, please. And in modeling, molecular docking, what we are the scoring method and scoring function is very important because when you perform a docking, it will ask you whether you want to go for the flexible docking or a rigid docking. Okay, maybe somebody who has already performed, they must maybe aware. A rigid means you know that your protein's active site is in this conformation, so you should not go for the flexible docking. If your ligand want to bind with the protein, he has to bind with this conformation only. You don't want any kind of flexibility in the protein as well as in the ligand. So that is a kind of a rigid docking. And suppose if you want to check more than one conformation of your ligand, whether it can bind like this, whether it can bind like this or like this, you can go for the flexible docking. So your ligand can check all the conformations within the cavity of the protein and give you the interaction. So that is again a big story about, so I will not go into detail about molecular docking here. And with this I want to stop it now here. Or it's very nice to be here. And one thing is that this is whatever I explained, it's my wish that I explained whatever but now it's up to you, whatever is your query based on my area of interest or related areas. So if you are most welcome, you can ask the question and I am not in hurry, I can answer all your questions. Okay. Normally when the person is coming for a talk, he has prepared something based on their interest and speaking. So it's very good if you can ask the questions.
QSR modeling, different models, are they following different algorithms? These models?
QSAR model, actually they are not following the different algorithm, but they are following different methods. The method is that descriptors, properties. Like suppose if you want that your model should be compatible with like 20 properties, 20 basic properties, then the model which you will get should have the 20 properties. Suppose you want that your model should be compound should be the good log p value, the compound should be low molecular weight, compound should be negative in nature or should be hydrophobic in nature. So like these properties you have to assign. So when you assign the properties, then only you will get them.
So how will you decide which model to pick?
There are some default parameters. And no, that's why I am telling. When you are aware about the, suppose I have given one example of HIV integrase, HIV-RT inhibitor. So for HIV-RT inhibitors, we know that it should be the electron withdrawing capacity of a functional group. It is a kind of a minute study. Suppose you know that a particular property of a functional group, then you can assign that the negative property at this position, I need it. I cannot be flexible at this particular position. So you can give that property. Otherwise, by default, it will take around 80 or 90 properties. Okay. Sometimes your data set is very large. Some compounds are having the 2 benzene rings, some compounds are having the 5 benzene rings. Okay, and there the functional property also very different. Like some compound is having 1.2 nanomolar activity and some compounds are having around 3000 nanomolar activity. So that you can screen, maybe remove from your study or you can entertain, but in this particular case you have to select some parameters.
Sir, there was just remark about this value-based determination with respect to this toxicity. What attributes actually harness in order to determine the cell?
Pardon?
There was the remark that just value-based determination with respect to the toxicity. Just passingly. Some on the basis of some high profile of some animal, isn't it? Well, I would like to know what attributes which are harnessed in order to determine the value.
In toxicity.
Well, there was passing remark in your lecture. Some value which is used in order to determine the toxicity of that particular?
Actually, this toxicity,
I think rabbit or something.
no, I'm telling you that when you talk about the toxicity, first of all, it is different, from compound to compound. Suppose if you are working on anti-HIV, your level of toxicity is different. When you discover a anti-inflammatory, the level of toxicity is different. Okay. And what we are doing nowadays, first we are going for the preclinical testing only on rats. Okay. What we are giving medicine to the rats, we are looking after for a month, we are taking the blood samples and seeing what is the effect on the.
You have just mentioned about the computational simulations rather than this wet level experimentation.
No, actually, in a computers, we have not that much flexibility which we are doing in a wet lab. But for the screening process, I can say yes, we can screen, like suppose if you have taken a 1 lakh compound initially to go for a toxicology testing, you can go for some parameters like ADME properties. Okay, in that I have given an example of a Tomcat in which you can check all the parameters of the rabbit. That is all configuration of the rabbit.
Yeah.
Okay, like suppose if the rabbit will consume this particular medicine, what will be the number of, what is the absorption level in the rabbit's blood? What is the absorption level in the rabbit's eye? Whether this particular compound is create any irritation in the eye or not. So that is some range of values are there. So if you are developing that model, you can check through the values. Okay, if the value is coming in that particular range, it is not toxic. If it is coming above that, it is very toxic. Okay. So this first thing is that you use your chemistry. Okay, if you have basic information about the chemistry like cyanide, CN functional group. Anybody knows if cyanide is there, cyanide's absorption is very high, distribution is very high, metabolism is very, very high. But what about T? Cyanide is a very toxic. Within 5 seconds it consumes in the blood. Highly toxic. So if the person is having a basic knowledge about the chemistry, that is the first screening. Second screening is the software. Fine. So some compounds are very good in ADME but toxic. So that kind of things we can screen initially through your databases, computational databases. Yes, sir. For your very question.
I want to ask, sir,
Yes, yes, sir.
there are numerous softwares regarding ADMET analysis. Which are the authentic ones which I can use for my studies?
Pardon?
Which are the authentic ones that which I can use for my further studies regarding ADMET analysis?
Fine. Actually, yes, you are right. Nowadays we have a lots of softwares available. Some are freeware, some are commercial. So it depends, like whether if you are want to go for the commercial one, the Schrodinger is there, which is giving a very nice value and good values, which I am using in my lab. Another one is from Accelerate, that is a this Discovery Studio, that is also good. In the commercial one I am talking about. But there are some freewares available, because if you don't have much funds in your lab, then you can go for first the freewares. Then maybe you can you are welcome to come to my lab and work in the commercial software. Okay, or you can send your compounds. We will check in the commercial software, and then you can compare with the freeware and commercial one. What's the difference? If it's the very minute, you can go ahead with the freewares also. Otherwise, you can use data of the commercial one.
Yes, as I have used one freeware like pre-admit.
Pre-admit.
Yes.
Okay.
It is giving the good results, but as the authenticity is mentioned there, that is not up to the level.
So better because freewares is not actually giving you much information what method, scoring function and algorithm they are using to predict the theoretical values. But if you are knowing all the information, what method they are using to predict the ADME properties, then it will be good. But if you are unaware, like in Swiss PDB, You are submitting your sequence, you are getting the protein. But what method they use, a scoring function and algorithm they use, you don't know. So try to avoid this kind of things where you are not able to defend that what method you use. So better to go for that software which will give you all the information and methods they have used.
Thank you, sir.
So in structure-based drug design, we know the structure, but in ligand-based, how we have to define the properties? So
First thing is that in a structure based, there is no lot of structure protein. Only the ligand data is required. A small molecule data is required. So if you have a small molecule, if you want to go for a pharmacophore, you have to draw or import all the molecules, small molecules in your screen, in your software, and develop a pharmacophore model. There is no requirement of any parameters. But in QSAR, the experimental activity is required. That you have to get it from the literature or from other sources.
are to be considered while going for the drug design?
Which parameters?
Environmental parameters, or which particular environmental climatic parameters are to be considered while you go for the drug design?
Exactly. Yes. My answer is yes. But for more elaboration, I can say whenever we will go for the clinical trials, okay, like it's phase 1. So in phase 1, what we are doing, we are taking, suppose we have taken 100 people from for our study. So we have taken like 1 from Asian countries, 10 from China, and 10 from the like California, and 10 from the some southern other region of them. So like this we are going. We are not going for a study for one particular series of peoples. Like suppose study is conducting in the Amravati. So we are not taking all the professionals from Amravati only. We are going for a variety of humans. So maybe their absorption level is also different, their body condition also different. So that should be applicable to all.
So isolate the protein, right? But I think that sequence is already available in NCBI. So why you are not using that sequence?
Okay, this question is over?
Yeah.
Okay. Actually, in a drug design, we are only using the protein, we are not using sequence.
Sequence of protein.
Protein.
Yeah.
Only protein we are using. Because sequence is available, from sequence you can develop a protein. But sequence directly you cannot use for drug designing. Okay, because sequence is a raw, you can say a raw kind of thing for drug discovery. When it will come to the protein, when the protein will be developed from the sequence, then only you may have learned that each and every protein is having one function. Not each and every sequence is having one function. Right? Protein is having the active site, some important reasons, not sequence. So development of the protein is required either through the experimental or extracrystallography or from protein modeling. The atoms, okay, 1 and 2 and 3. Okay, the angle between these three is a 90 degree now. Fine. And suppose if you move this angle like this, now the angle is 120. This is the second confirmation. Okay, so maybe or may not be when the ligand will go to the protein, so they are interacting in this form only, not in this form. So this is like conformational changes. So in this I am giving you just one example. So but whenever we will go for the combinatorial library, then the ligand is checking around 1000 conformations within the cavity of the protein, and it will give you the interaction score, like which particular conformation is much active than the second one. So based on that interacting score, you can identify which particular conformation is good.